Muhammad Ali on live TV. I'll KO you in one round, Bruce. 7 seconds later. In the early 1970s, Muhammad Ali was the most famous man on the planet. He'd beaten Sonny Liston twice. He'd stared down the entire United States government. He'd told the world he was the greatest, and the world had stopped arguing. Bruce Lee was 5'7" and weighed 135 pounds soaking wet. So when Ali leaned into a live microphone and called Bruce Lee out by name, telling the cameras he'd knock the little martial artist out in one round, the boxing world laughed. Reporters laughed. The studio audience laughed. Bruce Lee didn't laugh. 7 seconds. That's how long it took for Bruce Lee to respond. And what he said next made Ali stop laughing for the rest of his life. This is the story of the day Bruce Lee made the greatest of all time go quiet. To understand what happened, you have to understand the era. In 1971, Muhammad Ali had just lost the fight of the century to Joe Frazier. He'd been stripped of his title for refusing to fight in Vietnam. And he was on a mission to rebuild his image, his bank account, and his reputation as the loudest man in any room. So Ali did what Ali always did. He talked. He went on every show that would have him. He called out everyone with 2 legs and a pulse. But by 1972, there was a new name dominating the entertainment world. A name that wasn't a boxer. A name that wasn't supposed to be in Ali's universe at all. Bruce Lee. The big boss had broken records across Asia. Fist of Fury was shattering box office numbers from Hong Kong to Manila. And Hollywood, for the first time, was paying attention to a Chinese-American kid who'd been turned down for the lead role in Kung Fu because executives thought audiences wouldn't accept an Asian leading man. During a press junket, a reporter asked Ali a question that would set everything in motion. "Champ, who would win in a fight between you and Bruce Lee?" Ali laughed. He looked around the room. He shook his head. "Bruce Lee," he said. "I'll knock him out in one round. You hear me, Bruce? One round." The room exploded. Within hours, the quote had made the wire. Within days, it was in newspapers from New York to Tokyo. But Ali had made a mistake. He'd assumed Bruce Lee wasn't watching. He was. And what Bruce Lee said in the next 7 seconds would be repeated for the next 50 years. But before we get to what he said, you need to understand who Bruce Lee actually was. Bruce Lee was born in San Francisco's Chinatown in 1940, but his family moved back to Hong Kong when he was 3 months old. By the time he was a teenager, he was running with street gangs, getting into fights almost daily, and developing a reputation as the most dangerous kid in his school. His father, a famous Cantonese opera star, was terrified his son would end up dead in an alley, so he sent him to study under Ip Man. Ip Man was already a legend in martial arts circles. He'd trained generations of fighters. But when Bruce showed up, something was different. The kid asked questions other students didn't ask. He challenged techniques. He wanted to know why a move worked, not just how to perform it. By 18, Bruce had been in so many street fights that the Hong Kong police told his parents to get him out of the country. They put him on a boat to America with $100 in his pocket. He ended up in Seattle. He worked as a busboy. He enrolled at the University of Washington. And in his spare time, he started teaching martial arts in a parking lot for $1 a lesson. That parking lot would eventually become the Jun Fan Kung Fu Institute. And what Bruce taught there would change combat forever. He wasn't just teaching Wing Chun anymore. He was inventing something new. He took the trapping hands of Wing Chun, the kicking range of Northern Chinese Kung Fu, the footwork of Western fencing, and something else. Something nobody expected. He took the footwork of Muhammad Ali. That's right. Years before Ali ever said his name on television, Bruce Lee was studying him. Frame by frame, round by round. Bruce had a 16mm projector set up in his living room. He would order reels of Ali's fights from a film company in New York. He'd watch them backwards. Bruce believed that watching a fighter in reverse stripped away the natural anticipation of forward motion. You could see exactly what made a movement work. He'd run an Ali jab in reverse, watch it again forward, then mirror it in front of a mirror. He called Ali the greatest fighter on the planet. He told his students that if Ali ever had to use his fists in a street fight, he would destroy anyone. But Bruce Lee was also a realist. He knew what his body could and couldn't do, and he knew exactly what would happen if a 135-pound martial artist stepped into a ring with a 230-pound heavyweight champion. "Everybody asks me about Muhammad Ali," Bruce told a journalist that year. "Look at my hand. That's a small Chinese hand. He would kill me." It was an honest answer, a respectful answer, the kind of answer that should have ended the conversation. But it didn't, because what Bruce Lee said next, the part the journalists almost never quote, is what eventually made its way back to Ali himself. To understand why Ali might call out a martial artist on national television, you need to understand who Muhammad Ali was in 1972. He wasn't just a boxer. He was a cultural earthquake. He told everyone he'd be the greatest before he ever proved it. He'd talked his way to the title. He'd talked his way through 3 years of being banned from boxing. He'd talked the entire planet into watching him fight. But in March 1971, something happened that nobody expected. He lost. Joe Frazier knocked him down in the 15th round of their first fight. Ali got up. He finished the fight on his feet. But the judges gave it to Frazier. And for the first time in his professional career, Muhammad Ali had lost. The press piled on. They said he was finished. They said the legs were gone. They said the mouth had finally written checks the body couldn't cash. So Ali did what Ali always did when he was wounded. He talked louder. He challenged anyone and everyone. He didn't just want fights. He wanted spectacle. He wanted headlines. He went on Johnny Carson. He went on Mike Douglas. He went on every European talk show that would book him. And he started calling out names that had nothing to do with boxing. He called out wrestlers. He called out football players. He even floated the idea of fighting Wilt Chamberlain. The Chamberlain fight almost happened. Wilt agreed in principle. But his agent backed out when Ali shouted "Timber" at a press conference, miming the giant falling down. So when Bruce Lee's name started circulating in entertainment magazines, it was almost inevitable that Ali would weigh in. He'd weighed in on everyone else. But here's where the story gets strange. Because the moment Ali said the line, something shifted. And the person who shifted first was Ali himself. Ali went home that night and asked his wife if she'd ever seen one of Bruce Lee's movies. She had. The next day, Ali sent someone to a Times Square theater to buy a ticket to Fists of Fury. What Ali saw on that screen would change the way he talked about Bruce Lee for the rest of his life. Bruce Lee was filming Way of the Dragon in Rome when the reporters arrived. He was directing his first feature film. He was choreographing the legendary Coliseum fight with Chuck Norris. He was, by every measure, the busiest man in martial arts cinema. But when an Italian journalist pulled him aside between takes and asked about Muhammad Ali's challenge, Bruce stopped. He didn't laugh. He didn't get angry. He looked at the journalist for what witnesses described as a full 7 seconds of silence. Then he spoke. "Muhammad Ali is a great fighter," he said. "The greatest. And in a boxing ring, he would beat me without question. But put us in a real fight. No rules. No ring. No gloves. And the question becomes very different." The journalist stopped writing. Bruce continued. And what he said next was not the response of a martial artist defending his honor. It was the response of a man who had already done the math. "I have studied his fights," Bruce said. "I have watched him move for hundreds of hours. I know exactly where his weight is when he throws each punch. I know how he resets his stance. I know what he cannot do." He held up his left hand, the famous small Chinese hand. "He cannot kick. He cannot grapple. He has never trained to defend against an attack from a man on the ground. He has never been hit below the belt in a way that counts. He has spent 20 years training inside the rules of one specific sport. I have spent 20 years training to break those rules." The Italian journalist filed the story. It ran in a small magazine. Then it got picked up by an American press service. Then it got picked up by an English-language paper in Hong Kong. And eventually, a copy of that article ended up on Muhammad Ali's hotel room desk before a fight in Las Vegas. Ali read the article 3 times. Then he put it down. Then he picked it up and read it again. Then he said something that surprised everyone in the room. "I want to meet that little Chinese man," Ali said. "I want to shake his hand." But before that meeting could happen, before Ali could ever look Bruce Lee in the eye, something happened that would make the fantasy fight impossible forever. On July 20th, 1973, Bruce Lee died. He was 32 years old. Enter the Dragon, the film that would make him an international superstar, had not yet been released. The fight with Muhammad Ali, the meeting, the handshake, none of it would ever happen. The cause of death was officially listed as cerebral edema, a reaction to a painkiller. Some said it was foul play. Some said it was a family curse. The conspiracy theories started before his body was in the ground. But while the world was still processing the loss, Muhammad Ali was sitting in a hotel room watching a screening of Enter the Dragon. Ali didn't say a word for the entire 102-minute runtime. When the credits rolled, he stayed in his seat. He stared at the screen. He shook his head. "That man could move," Ali finally said. "That man could move." The story should have ended there. But it didn't. Because in the years that followed, Ali kept talking about Bruce Lee. And the way he talked about him changed everything. For the rest of his career, every time a reporter asked Ali about martial arts, the same name came up. "Bruce Lee was a bad man," Ali said in 1977. "Bruce Lee would have been a great boxer if he'd been bigger," he said in 1981. "I never met Bruce Lee," he told a Japanese reporter in 1987. "I wish I had. He was the greatest fighter I never saw in person." By 1990, Ali had Parkinson's. He could barely speak above a whisper. But when a documentary crew asked him to name the 5 greatest fighters of all time, he listed himself first. Then he listed Joe Louis. Then Sugar Ray Robinson. Then Rocky Marciano. Then he held up a 5th finger. "Bruce Lee," he whispered. The documentary crew was stunned. They asked him to repeat it. "Bruce Lee," Ali said again. "He wasn't a boxer, but he was a fighter. And he was the truth." And here's where the story takes its final turn. Because in 2003, a magazine published an article that revealed something Muhammad Ali had been hiding for 30 years. In 2003, a martial arts magazine published a profile of Linda Lee Cadwell, Bruce Lee's widow. Toward the end of the interview, the journalist asked her about the famous Ali challenge. The "I'll KO you in 1 round" line. The 7 seconds of silence in Rome. Linda smiled. Then she opened a desk drawer in her home office. She pulled out a folder. And inside that folder was a letter that had never been made public. It was postmarked November 1973, for months after Bruce Lee's death. And it was addressed to Bruce. The return address was Las Vegas, Nevada. The sender was Muhammad Ali. Linda showed the magazine the letter. She allowed them to quote portions of it. And the contents stunned the martial arts world. "I never got to tell your husband this," Ali wrote. "But I was wrong. I should not have said what I said about him on television. I was talking through my hat. I had not seen what he could do." The letter went on for 2 pages. "I watched his pictures. I watched the way he moved. I watched the way he hit a man. And I want you to know, ma'am, that if your husband and I had ever met in any kind of contest with rules I did not understand, your husband would have made a fool of me. I am the greatest boxer who ever lived," Ali wrote. "But Bruce Lee was the greatest fighter. There is a difference. And he taught me what it was without ever throwing a punch in my direction." The letter ended with one final line. "Tell your daughter her father was the truth." Shannon Lee, who was 4 years old when her father died, would not learn about the letter until she was 34. When she did, she said only one thing. That sounds exactly like the kind of man Muhammad Ali was. But the story isn't over. Because the rivalry that never happened, the fight that never was, would inspire something Bruce Lee never lived to see. In 1993, 20 years after Bruce Lee's death, three Brazilian brothers organized a tournament in Denver, Colorado. They called it the Ultimate Fighting Championship. The rules were simple. No rules. Any style. No weight classes. Pure combat. The man who won that first tournament was a Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner named Royce Gracie. He weighed 175 pounds. He defeated three men in one night, including a 270-pound brawler. The world had never seen anything like it. But Bruce Lee had. Bruce Lee had been writing about exactly this for 15 years. In his book Tao of Jeet Kune Do, Bruce had described a fighting style with no style. A method of combat that adapted to any opponent. A philosophy he called the way of intercepting fist. Today, fighters in every major MMA organization on Earth point to one man as the philosophical origin of their sport. Dana White, the president of the UFC, has said it openly. Bruce Lee is the father of mixed martial arts. He's said it in interviews. He's said it on podcasts. He said it on stage in front of thousands of fans. Bruce Lee never threw a punch in an MMA match. He never wore the gloves. He never stepped into the octagon. But every man and woman who does owes him something they can never repay. And Muhammad Ali, the man who once said he'd knock him out in one round, lived long enough to see that legacy take shape. When Ali lit the torch at the 1996 Atlanta Olympics, his hands shaking with Parkinson's, the broadcaster asked him what he was thinking about as he climbed the steps. Ali couldn't speak loudly anymore, but he leaned into the microphone and said one sentence. I'm thinking about all the fighters who came before me, and the ones who will come after. The broadcaster didn't know it. The crowd didn't know it. The billions watching at home didn't know it. But the people closest to Ali, the ones who'd been with him for decades, knew exactly who he was thinking about. Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee never fought Muhammad Ali. The match the world fantasized about for 50 years was never going to happen. The styles were too different. The weight classes too far apart. The rules too contradictory. But somewhere in a hotel room in Las Vegas in 1973, the greatest boxer who ever lived sat down and wrote a letter to a man he had never met. And in that letter, he admitted something he'd never admitted publicly. That he had been wrong. That he had spoken too soon. That a 5'7" man from Hong Kong had earned his respect without ever lifting a finger against him. If you want to see the story of the only man who ever made Muhammad Ali admit defeat without throwing a punch, watch the video on screen now. Subscribe for more stories the history books never told you.